Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Pagan's Witchy Corner. My name is Pagan, and I'm sorry, first of all, to my audience who's getting this episode a little bit delayed. We had some major Mercury in retrograde tech issues the first time we recorded this wonderful interview. Yeah, it didn't work. It ended up corrupting the file, and nothing wanted to play correctly. And then eventually I plugged it into the editing software, and the editing software said it didn't work. So here we are, trying again. So, allow me to introduce to my audience the wonderful and the great Tudorbeth. You guys have heard me talk a little bit about Tudorbeth's work in the past when I did a review of her first book in her Little Hedgewitches book series, which was the Little Hedgewitches book of Spells,
Spells, charms.
spells, charms, and brews. Yes, I had to think for a minute because I don't actually have it in front of me. Spells, charms, and brews. That's the one. And then the newest one is the seasonal magic one. That's book 2 in that series. And she also has a great book out from Wiser, which is spell books for the seasons. And she has tons of beautiful books that are also self-published, which we're going to talk all about because self-published books need just as much love as traditional publishing books. So stay tuned for all that great stuff. We're going to talk all about it. It's going to be fantastic. But Tudorbeth, welcome again to the show.
Hello, hello. It's like deja vu.
It is
Here we
deja vu. It's been such a wild Mercury with retrograde. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how everything that could break this retrograde has broken, and I'm not here for it. I don't like it.
I know, and there's nothing you can do. There isn't
No.
really anything magically. You just have to ride out the storm, and that's basically it. You just ride out the storm. You know it's going to come. You just got to prepare as best you can and just ride it out. Because sometimes storms are just going to come, and you just got to
Mm-hmm.
go with it.
And, like I was saying before, this is probably the worst one I've experienced in a while. And it's funny because maybe it's because of the moon in Scorpio and I'm a Scorpio. Maybe
Mm.
that's why it's hitting me harder. I don't know. I'm not a big astrologer person. But usually Mercury, when it's in retrograde, is a little bumpy, but not bad. Usually I'm the one that can ride it out pretty well, and everyone around me, their world is on fire. But this time
Mm.
for me, my world was on fire.
Well, hopefully it won't happen again for another, I don't know, decade.
Oh
That
gosh, I
bad.
hope not.
Yeah.
um, but to everyone out there, I hope that your Mercury in retrograde is going as smoothly as it can and your world is not currently on fire and everything is not breaking for you. Hopefully it's going well for you. But if it's any inclination to what I've seen from my friends on Twitter, uh we're right there in the trenches with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Oh.
let's go ahead and start off talking a little bit about your newest book, which is the Little Hedgewitch's Book of Seasonal Magic. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about the book, and then I will talk about all my favorite things that I loved about the book.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, so it's the second book in the series. It's the Little Hedgewitch's books library. It's the Little Hedgewitch's library, basically. They're called Little Books of Hedgewitchery Library, something like that. It's a library. So there's going to be other ones, but this is probably one of my favorite ones because I love the seasons. And when you live in the Northern Hemisphere, and especially when you're living in England, you are literally surrounded by the seasons and everything changes. You can really see if you took like a time lapse photo of the garden, you could see the changes, those stereotypical changes throughout the year, which is I love. And because it just it infuses you. It brings
Mhm.
extra kind of rhythm to your life and also to your magical practice as well, with all the different herbs and vegetables and fruits and just basically everything that's available to you throughout the year, and it changing all the time. And I think in this day and age, it's important if we start to live in harmony with the
Mhm.
environment. For so long we've kind of disassociated ourselves with nature and with the seasons, and I do think it's very important to right on the base level, basically, the eating the fruit and vegetables that are available at that specific time, and not, you I mentioned it before somewhere as well. You don't expect to eat spring onions in November or December in the northern hemisphere. You're not going to be able to eat them,
Hmm.
so that they've so just eating, attend the farmers markets, go to your local farm shop. We have farm shops out here, but there are farmers markets where you buy the produce, which is literally just probably been picked off the land in the
Hmm.
morning, and you just, you can make so many things with it. And I think that's very important. So I love the seasons because it's such a gift from Mother Nature, and such a gift from the goddess, if you adhere to the goddesses, and deities. But it's there, it's around us all the time, and it is a beautiful gift, and we shouldn't ignore the seasons. Sometimes, okay, in November, I don't know about where you live, Pagan, but here in England, in November, it will be definitely the mists and mellow fruitfulness. We
Hmm.
have a lot of fog, and it's very, very dreek, as my Scottish and cousins would say, which is like dark and damp, and just really cold and rainy. But there's also, it's very mysterious. I love fog and all of that stuff. So all the weather um, phenomena and formations that are in sync with the seasons as well, I love going for long walks in the fog, because that is
I
great. That's,
I
they're
totally
the
feel
time.
that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because they're the times when you can really feel like the energy and the magic and all around you. And it's very easily to slip into that hedge witch mode of just like, oh, I'm gonna go.
Yep, I feel that. I feel, it's funny that you kind of mentioned all that. I told my husband years ago, I said, I think that I was born with a soul that lives in the wrong location. And he goes, "What do
Mm,
you mean by that?" And I said, "I live for places that get cold and dreary and look like,
mm,
you stepped out of like a, witchy movie. That's where I need to be. Where the summers are beautiful, but, the winters are just mysterious and dark and twisty and all
yeah.
that. And that, and Tennessee gets a little bit of that, but it doesn't get a lot, unfortunately. We just get really hot, lush green summers, which gives us
Mm.
long growing seasons. But, I love what you were also saying with your garden and getting to see the transition with the seasons. I don't get to see my transition. I get to go from winter to everything is green to we're in the heat of summer to everything has died and it's now winter. I don't really get that fall and spring feels, unfortunately.
Oh,
Um,
they're the best
I
times.
know, I miss it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, spring and summer are those times where you've got the equinoxes on either side of them. You've got the
Hmm.
vernal equinox in the spring, or the spring equinox, as many people call it. But and then in the autumn, you've got the autumnal equinox as well, which falls around Mabon.
Hmm.
But they're so, I mean, they're so alive with like magic and possibility, and a lot of different energies are in the air at that time. I mean, people often say about, Halloween or Samhain, that that the veil is thin, but actually, you know what? The veil is thin at other times of the year as well, and
Hmm.
especially around that turning time of the spring, turning time of the spring equinox, and going into Beltane, and then also Hexanacht, as well as the night before the Beltane um, festival. But there's so much. I mean, Hexanacht is what we would call here in the north the spring Halloween.
Hmm.
That's what it is. It's basically a spring Halloween, which is really nice. And traditionally, people would dress up in masks and have fun, and build the bonfires, and it's that beginning of the spring and the summer, and you've planted the plant, the harvest. You're planting the seeds and things for the harvest, and all of that. So it's, there is so much energy going on in spring and autumn, which is shame you don't get really to enjoy it.
I would say though, probably as a fellow hedge witch, energetically, I feel them. I feel,
Mm.
especially around Beltane and Samhain, I definitely feel the energy shifting for sure. And you know, feeling that pull of the veil being thinner and the spirit communication being much easier to access and all that during that time. So those are the times that I kind of live for. Like, it's funny because I'm not a really big person into Imbolc or Ostara. Even Midsummer I'm not really big into, but you give
Mm.
me Beltane and
Yeah.
even Mabon and Samhain and even Yule, like those are the ones that are really big for me. But
Mm.
is there any time out of all of the holidays that as a hedge witch that you really just kind of live for?
Yeah, actually, you kind of mentioned it. Yule, I love midwinter. I love that time from midwinter all the way through, because traditionally it used to be from midwinter. So roughly round about the 21st, the
Hmm.
20th, 21st, that those celebrations would last. I mean, nowadays, what with work and schools and this, that, and the other, our modern lives has taken away that importance of coming together during the bleakest month, and it is a very, very dark month, but then recognizing that we've got midwinter, which is also the solstice. It falls
Hmm.
around the solstice as well, and so the sun is returning, and we've sort of kind of drifted away from acknowledging that. And it would be sort of like a full 12 days, because it is the 12 days of what Christians call now Christmas,
Hmm.
but it was the 12 days that you would celebrate. You'd all be within the family. You would all go into each other's houses and in the community and party. And it would be like a 12-day party, and it would be like non-stop. And I love that. I think that would be just brilliant. Work stops, the harvest stops, and this is, we're going back right to our pagan roots of living off the land and working the land. But we had 12 days that was like fun.
Yeah.
you know, I do love that, and I love to like kind of limit my responsibilities during that time now. And that's kind of it is a tricky thing. I'm sure you've
Hmm.
experienced it as well as being a hedge witch, like trying to live that life of a hedge witch in a modern world. It is very, very tricky to do.
Yes.
Uh, and I think that's part of the reason why I wrote the books as well, is like, okay, how do I do it? How can I help other hedge witches to appreciate what we live, how we live, what we eat? um you can be a hedge witch in this modern day and age.
I would definitely say you could as well. And you know, it's funny that you were talking about the 12 days and all that. This last year in 2021, me and my family decided that we were going to do the kind of more Norse tradition of Yule, where it's the entire month of December. It's from December 1st all the way through December 31st. And I think it
Yeah.
actually goes through January 8th, I think is the way that it actually goes. And I think we did ours through January 8th. I don't think I actually took down decorations till like January 8th or 10th. Partially because I don't really like taking them down because they're pretty. And at the same time, I also was like, I'll do it later. But the other part of that was we decided to do something every day that month. And it was a lot more profound than just doing the 12 days that, you know, you would normally do. And, you know, not to say that every pagan out there needs to go and do 30 days of Yule. No, you don't have to. You can do 1 day of Yule if you want.
Mm.
But or not celebrate at all, whichever you prefer. There, like, you know, I was saying before, whereas like midsummer is a good holiday, but I don't get much out of it. And part of that is because I also live in a really hot climate and midsummer
Mm.
is not enjoyable for me. Um, so, you know, that's one of the things, but I know a lot of people who do really get a lot out of that holiday, but it's not a big holiday for me. And same with Imbolc. Imbolc is a good holiday. It's just not a thing where I get a lot of energy from it. But the bigger
Mm.
ones like Beltane and all that, I do. So I think it's really awesome that you also really love Yule and all of the energies that come with Yule. Especially, I think that we do need to stir up a lot more around that time because it's so dark and dreary in December.
Exactly. Our ancestors, our pagan ancestors, they kind of knew that anyway. You know, they've got it sussed. We should really listen to them
Yeah.
because they did exactly that. They did exactly that. And there was that sense of community as well, and
Hmm.
looking out for each other, and, you know, getting the food packages, and making the harvest, and bringing it all in together. And you know, it was a really different time, and compared to now, where people are just very, very, although we've got social media, you do feel like we're alone.
Yeah. And it's interesting that we kind of talk a little bit about that feeling as well. I watched a TikTok recently where the creator is trying to inspire people to do their own gardenings and get to know their neighbors and all that. And it's true. So many of us don't know our neighbors. We don't communicate
Mm,
with our neighbors. We just kind of live in our nice little bubble of our homes. And so we don't have that community sense like we used to, or our communities are spread across the globe because of the internet, the people that we
yeah.
want to associate with. And, I think that we definitely, especially in these trying times, need to start kind of getting to know our communities a little bit better and kind of starting to rely on each other instead of just trying to rely on ourselves. Because let's face it, it's hard to do it all by yourself. It's true.
Ab- Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
hard.
definitely. Mm.
But that kind of segues us a little bit into your book from Wiser, which
Mm.
is a spell book for the seasons. And that book really does kind of break down some of, more so I would say, than even your seasonal magic book. It really breaks down a lot of like the deity work and different things. And it's also a gorgeous book, everybody. It's absolutely stunning.
It is. It is a beautiful book. I have to admit, it was beautiful. It is lovely, and they've reissued it. Wise has reissued it because it came out in 2019 over here in the UK, and of course over in America. But I think because of the publishing was like changing hands and this, that, and the other, they didn't do as much with it. But now I think they are doing a bit more with it and things.
Hmm.
But yeah, it got republished over in the States by Visor, and I don't know if there's anything different about it. It's a nice size. It's bigger than the little books of
Yes.
Hedgewitchery, but it's quite a, yeah, it's quite a nice side, and every single page is beautifully illustrated. You know,
Yes.
every single color under the sun is used, and every single image is on. You know, the illustrators are absolutely amazing. I take my hats off to them with that book. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous book that you can just keep out on the coffee table, on the table. You know, it's
Hmm.
not one for the shelf. It is definitely one to be looked at.
It's also one that's also practical. I like what you said, that it's a good coffee table book because it is
Mm,
absolutely stunning, but it is also a good practical book. Like me just sitting here, just flipping open to a page, it has a Wiccan funeral ceremony in it, which a lot of
yeah.
pagan books don't have funeral ceremonies.
Mm,
And so that's kind of one of those things that it is just as practical as it is beautiful, but it has so many great offerings in it as well to kind of connect you to the different seasons and even the different deities associated with those seasons. And you did such a beautiful job with it. So, first of all, hats off to you as well as the author, and
thank
the
you.
illustrators as well. They've done such a gorgeous job with it. But yeah, it is definitely a book that I think that if you kind of pair the two, the little Hedgewitch's book and this one, they pair very nicely together. And they
Mm,
do so in such a way that if you want lots of practical applications for the seasons, you're going to refer to that Hedgewitch's book. But if you want something that, again, is that coffee table book that is also practical and has different little tidbits about the seasons and informations about them, then you're going to definitely refer to the other one. But I would say that buy both because they go hand in hand with each other.
oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the Wiser book, that one has got a lot of, each season is covered by a deity, so it was really a kind of an introduction into general witchcraft, whereas the Llewellyn books are specifically hedgewitchery,
Hmm.
which is specifically me. I wrote the originally I wrote the seasons book to teach people, you know, just the grounding works in each of the kind of deities that you can kind of follow within magic. And and I grew up with them in different kind of seasons. Once again, everything was done by seasons. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's how I was kind of taught and learned magic, was to do with the seasons. Um, and definitely here in the UK, in England, and also, you know, my family background as well. There's a lot of Norse magic in
Yes.
that kind of area where I live, and also in my family. My cousins are Danish, so you know, it's around us all the time. You know, this Viking influence that we have. So that Norse mythology was very much there, and it was always the gods of the north, which was winter.
Mm-hmm.
So and then of course the other side of the family is the Celtic side, which has got all of the, you know, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, you know, the Pict. It was all there, and that was spring. Very much, it was spring.
I would
And then
definitely say that as well. And you know, the books also paint all that beautiful imagery as well. But yeah, you did such a great job connecting all the deities to all the different seasons, and the way that you did it, it's just done exponentially well in every
thank you.
aspect.
Yeah, thank you. And
So,
I always come up with something that's like kind of unique and
mhm.
weird, but I think that's the fact that I'm a hedge witch, because as you know, we kind of think out of the box,
Yes.
and not everybody thinks like us, and everybody's like, what is she on now, what is she talking about now? They're like, well, you know.
I think hedge witches are the ones that we can see all the aspects of all the different pantheons in their own individual rights. And we can also see all the aspects of different types of witchcraft in their own individual rights. And I would say hedge witches, this is my own personal opinion, so please, you know, the witch police don't come after me for this. But the truth is, I do believe that hedge witches are the original eclectic witches, because I
Yeah.
do think that we take what serves us from every aspect, even
Mm.
though we are able to, you know, ride the hedge as it traditionally states. But I think that we are the ones that can definitely work with multiple deities from different pantheons. We can also do spirit work. We can do that kitchen witchcraft. We can do that garden witchcraft and that green witchcraft, and, you know, do all of the things very easily. And I would say that, you know, it's funny because when I was trying to figure out what kind of witch I was when I first started out, I was like, well, I'm probably eclectic. This was before I ever even knew what a hedge witch was. And then
Mm.
as I learned about what hedge witch was, I was like, you know, this seems like the exact same thing, just with a slightly different title and slightly different thing. But it was something that I was already doing all the hedge witch stuff, and then I was like, oh, so this has a formal title. Okay, now I know what I am. And it was all stuff I had been practicing. But it's so interesting the way that we do that. And the other thing too is I know that I would say probably up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, at least in my neck of the woods in the US, hedge witch wasn't really talked about. It was all eclectic witch. Hedge witch
Mm.
is kind of a relatively new term, at least around here it's been. So I really like the surgence of this word that's coming out, and the title of it. And I like that you're introducing it to us in so many ways.
Yeah. It's ironic that it's probably one of the oldest terms.
Yes.
It
And
comes
that's
from
the
Anglo-Saxon.
right.
Like, it's over 1,000 years old, and everybody's going, "Oh, it's new. It's got nothing to do. It's new. It's just like it's green witchcraft." And you're like, "Yeah."
Nope, it's old. We just learned the term. That's why it's new to us.
You see, the thing with the hedge witch is that she kept her mouth shut and she didn't come forward. That
Yeah.
was the whole thing. They kept very quiet because they do like you know, their privacy, and they're in their own little world, and it's very rare that they come out. And but I, you know, I kind of broke the mold. I stepped out of the broom closet. I came out,
And you
and
wrote beautiful books all about hedge witchery.
no, I broke the code. Sorry, girls. Sorry, sisters and brothers.
Well, you know, that kind of brings us a little bit around to the first hedge witch book, which has been out since what, 2021?
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time, sort of this time last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a great little book, but it gives you a beautiful overview of what it's like to be a hedge witch and the different spells that encompass it.
Mm.
So do you want to talk a little bit about maybe your process with that and why you chose to put all the pieces together that you did?
Yeah, each one of the books in the little Hedgewitch's library is it it goes further down. That there's like there's like one level and then there's another level underneath it. So each one is going further and further down. I imagine this windy little road going down into this little cottage in the middle of the woods. That's what each one of these books is doing. So the first one, I wanted to we're just gently coming into hedge witchery, and I approach it via the big five, meaning love, money, career, health, and family. And in amongst these kind of themes, there's also our belief system involved in that. So we approach each of them, and I talk about and try to teach people how to make how to make basically a brew, how to make a charm, and how to make a spell.
Mm-hmm.
You and just approach it that way, and also introduce the concept of hedge witchery as well as how we interact and we adhere to not only the deities but also the elemental beings, and it's this elemental being aspect that is very important in hedge witchery.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the fairies or tree spirits or anything like that, but everything, and in how this elemental being is another aspect of nature, and this absolutely central core within hedge witchery to do with nature and the energies that are involved in nature, and also the correspondences. If you How much we are so integrated into it. um, I think if you were to use a scientific term, I think that hedge witches are the ones that would believe in the chaos theory. The chaos
Yes.
theory within that. Yeah, we are literally the chaos theory. If you've ever experienced the chaos, we're the chaos theory. That if a butterfly flaps its wings in New York, there's going to be a typhoon somewhere in the eastern, in Pacific or something like that. Everything is connected to such an extent, and you have to respect that and adhere to that and acknowledge that in your practice and in your everyday lives. So the very first book, I was just introducing that. We were just gently going down that little steps towards the forest and into the forest by covering those different kind of um, life matters, as I call them.
Mm-hmm.
So like the old spells about love and marriage and friendship is all involved in them as well. And I approach things, I try to bring it out into the modern world. So there'll be spells about getting rid of, trying to get rid of debt, or or spells to help friends who may be a hoarder and who collects things, and they can't see literally the forest for the trees because they've got so much stuff in their house and they can't stop. So I try to bring everything into the modern realm as well with hedge witchery.
Yes, and you do a really great job about that. And it's funny, I actually saw a tweet just before our interview um about a friend of ours who was actually using the bye-bye spell in the Little Hedge Witch's book of charms, spells, and brews to cut all of those old negative ties that no longer serve us. So I
Oh,
thought that that was a really interesting coincidence, and I was like, oh well, we're about to do an interview with her, and there's her book right in my Twitter feed.
yeah, good.
It's a really great and the funny thing about it is it does have a spell for pretty much almost anything you could need in it, which is really great. And then you go into the next book, and the next book has all of the different aspects, and it has tons of recipes. So for those of you who like to cook, those of you who like to can, those of you who like homesteading or gardening or any of that, that second book is definitely something you need to own because it has so many great recipes that also are easily amendable. So if you can't get something that's mentioned, you could substitute something else that would be equally as just as good. So they're really great recipes that are in that book. So definitely go check those out. But moving on to your other books, you have I don't even know how many. I want to say like a dozen self-published books as well, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with me. I've been writing well, almost 30 years. I've been writing, and although a vast majority of them are no longer available, because I have a thing that when I do put self-published books, and that's one of the beauty of being self-published, is that you can go, right, that's been out now for a year, I'm going to delete it. So I do that with my books. I do that with all my books, because I don't just write as Tudorbeth
Mm-hmm.
in my witch mind. Because we're made up of like three areas. We're made up of mind, body, and soul. And so I write under three different pseudonyms. So I'm Tudorbeth for me, because that's exactly what I am. That's body. My mind is, I write under Coyne or Sarah Coyne. And then my soul is basically Flora Beth Edwards. So I write my children's books about that.
Mm-hmm.
And all three of those will have an element of spirituality with them. There'll be something about them. So my books that are SL Coyne, they're very they're a bit like the Celestine Prophecy. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you remember the Celestine Prophecy.
Yes.
They're in that kind of MBS, mind, body, and spirit kind of genre. So they are, there is that theme running through all my books. But yeah, I've been writing for like 30 years. And like I say, I've had books published. And I published them myself and things, self-published, but I will delete them after a year. I'll go, right, that's it, that one's gone now. Or I might reintroduce it and I might republish it. Like in the city books, I did about 10 years ago. There was a series of books that came out, 5 books, and it was sort of and they were published. And then the publisher kept them for about 3 years. That was the contract, and then they came back to me. And so then I self-published them, and then I deleted them, the files, and now I've republished them again, just for this year, because it's been the 10th year that they will be out. So it's like I'll do that every so often. But by the end of this year, I probably will take them out, delete the files again. So that's what I do. So if you see books that you go, oh, there's a Tudorbeth book,
Mm-hmm.
have a look at it, because chances are this time next year, I will have deleted it and it will not be there. Because that's just what I'm like. That's what I do. I've had no end of books. So I was actually counting it up how many books I've probably written, and I think I'm getting up to the 100 mark.
Oh,
Seriously, I'm getting up
wow.
to the 100 mark. Really, because I also, like I say, I also write children's books, and I've written picture books as well. I wrote a picture book, which was completely mad and crazy, but I really liked it. It was Felix Trash and the Moon Rock, and it was about a little alien who comes out of this moon rock, and and he's friends with this other the Felix Trash, who lives in a garbage site, and it's very cute.
Oh,
I
that
think
sounds
that's
so
the
adorable.
and the two of them then go off and build a spaceship out of rubbish, of trash,
Of course.
and they fly off into space, and then they try and clean up space that's been
Oh,
left by the messy human race. Yeah, it's told in poem, in rhyme as well. So
oh,
yeah.
that's so cute.
It's just mad.
Well, people out there, if you're wanting to go and get all of Tudor Beth's books, most of her books that are self-published are available on Kindle. So you will
Yes.
not be able to get hard copies of those. Those are all digital. And go snag them before she deletes them, and make sure you read them too. Don't just buy them and forget about them, because then you may not have access to them anymore.
This is it. This is it. That's what I do. I just go, right, okay, time for something new. Let's change it.
Oh, that's really interesting. And part of your self-published books that you've got coming out that you're still, I think, working on, because I think you've got another couple that come out this year, are your Witchiac series, right?
Yes, the Witchiacs. Yes, actually, they're all done.
Oh, they are? Okay. I
Yeah,
thought
the
I thought
whole.
the one wasn't coming out till like October or something like that.
No, the October one is out. It's the Cosmic Witch. The Witchiac is a series that I've been developing for quite some time. And it's just each month there's a particular type of witchcraft practice that is kind of prevalent. And of course, it's a different type of witch that just has a different kind of view at something. So, for example, March is the Hedgewitch. Um, and then there's also what I've also put into that as well. I wrote, because of your good self, I wrote The Witch's Child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of it's an amalgamation of all of the Witchiac. So all of the different 12 types of witches is in there, but it's in relation to children. So if you've got a child that's born like in October, and you think, oh, I wonder what kind, what kind of prevalence of magical practices or what they might like. And so it tells you all about them. So there's an amalgamation of all the different types for the 12 months for the whole year. It also tells you about the creative talents, the natural creative talent for each month. So will they be good at, painting, or would they prefer dancing, or would they prefer photography? Would they like to be behind the camera instead and taking photographs? So all different types of those kind of things. And also, who would be their most likely to be their best friend, and who most likely is just going to be a natural kind of rival? Who's going to be the one that they're just not going to mix? Because sometimes people don't mix in playground. Kids just don't. It's got a clash of personalities. There you go.
I think that that's so awesome. And yes, my daughter and I were the inspiration for this book after our
Yes.
original interview that we did with you on Chaos and Shadow. So that was such a really fantastic thing. And the book itself, The Witch's Child, is actually a lot of fun to read. It's a quick little read. I want to say it's like 53 pages or something like that. But
Yeah.
it is a great little read, especially if you have kids and kids who are witchy inclined. Definitely go check out that book as well. So many books, so many awesome things that you have written, and you also have some really cute children's books out there as well that you had recommended. I put on my wish list, but now I'm gonna have to go buy them since I know that there's a time limit on them.
Well, fortunately, you see, this is the good thing with me when I because I'm also traditionally published, is that if I'm traditionally published, I can't delete them because
No, you
that's up
can't
to the
delete those
publisher.
ones. Just the
Yeah,
self-published books.
exactly. And that's it. And that's it. So that's kind of a good thing when they're traditionally published, is that like, they're safe. They're not going to be, oh, press the delete button one night, but oh, okay. I would probably also do like a little ritual with it, as because it'd be like a cleansing ritual, and you just kind of get that vibe, and you go, okay, let's get rid of this now. Let's get rid of this.
I mean, it's
I
always good to kind of recycle some of that energy, and if
yeah.
it's meant to come back, it always does come back in some way, shape, or form. I've never done that with creative work though. Oh, that's a scary thought to think about. Now
Is
I
that a
have
scary
gone back.
thought? Very good.
I
Oh,
with my
bless.
own books, I have gone back and issued new editions of them. I've gone back and re-edited them and given them new covers and deleted the old versions. But
Mm,
I've never just straight up hit the delete button on any of my books. I don't know if I could have
yeah.
the heart to do it. It's like, oh gosh, once it's out there and it's stuck forever. But I
Uh,
think that that's really fun and exciting, and I think it's cool that you do that because it gives everybody that chance to go grab it before it's gone, because you never know it's going to disappear. So go grab it, your copies, everybody. uh
well, that's the thing. It's like with nature. Sometimes you got to do a bit of pruning, and
mhm.
sometimes some plants really need to be cut right back. And that's how I view my writing as well. It's like I think of it like a big buddleia. Those big trees, the big bushes that you get like buddleia. We have buddleias growing everywhere, and they'd love to be cut right back. And the more you really cut them back, the better they grow the next year. So that's a bit like my
Yes.
writing.
We have a vine
Yeah.
here that nobody likes, but we all have to do that, and it's called kudzu, and it will literally take over buildings and
Really? Right.
yeah, it will destroy buildings and it just completely encompass them. The good thing is that kudzu is actually edible.
Ah,
Yeah, you can actually cook the leaves up like, you know, if you were gonna like saute up spinach or something like that, you can cook the leaves up just the same. The downside is that if you plant kudzu, it will take over your house, your yard, and everything in between and kill everything underneath it. That's the
oh,
downside. It's an invasive weed that we have here, but it's really funny too. When I first moved here, and there's a particular spot on in one of the sections of my city that we call New Providence, and there is a patch of kudzu that they have to burn it out every year. That's the only way to get rid of this. You can't cut it back because it'll just grow right back. You have to burn it.
right.
And when it was growing along the hillside where this road went through, it was climbing up over the power lines and it was wrapped around the power lines and it was coming back down and wrapping around itself on the ground. So you had just these walls of vines on the other side of the road. It was really cool to look at because, you know, I'm from the desert in New Mexico, so I'd never seen anything like that. I was like, oh, that's pretty. Can we grow that? And my husband's like, no. But it was really fascinating and amazing to watch, and it's so fascinating to see how nature can take over something like that. Now
Mm,
granted, of course kudzu is not a good plant to grow, but it is something that if we learned how to work with it, you know, if you got to cut it back, you got to cut it back by burning it. But if you can't
mm,
and you can harvest it to eat it, there's a survival crop for you. There you go, everybody.
yeah. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing. But yes, Tudorbeth, we are about out of time. So thank you again for being here. Tell everybody where they can find you, social media wise, what they can do to connect with you. We've already talked a lot about the books. And you have a new book that's coming out next year, later this year. It's part of the Hedgewitches
Oh,
series. I don't know how much you can talk about that,
yes.
but
I think
um,
I don't know if I can. I will say it. Yes, it's the next one in the series, and it's all about flowers.
it's going to be a good one, everybody. So stay
I
tuned for
can't
that.
wait. Yeah, I really love this one. I really love this one too. I love everyone. Just one of those mothers that I just love all my children, and all my books are my children. I mean, okay, granted, I do delete them every so often.
I guess
So
you
maybe
could think
I'm
of it
not
like
the
a mother
best.
bird kicking their little bird out of the
Yeah,
house or out of the nest and be
that's
like, okay,
right.
now it's time for you to go live your life. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Be free. Go. So maybe I'm not the best mothers, but yes, everyone. I think of me a bit like Queen Victoria because she liked them when they were babies, and that was nice. And then,
Aw.
then when they got older, she didn't want to know them anymore. So yeah, maybe that was it. So she kept. That's why Harry and Albert kept having children.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so funny.
they had about 9 of them. But yes, yes. So I love writing them, and I love to. I can't wait to see the cover for this next one, and to hold it. There's something about, as you probably know, when you're holding
Hmm.
your book in your hand and you go, oh,
Yeah,
it's done.
you get that kind of like, I can't believe I made this. I made this. Do you see this? This is
Yeah.
mine. I made it. It's so exciting. But I can't wait for the next one. The next one's going to be fantastic.
Mhm.
And you're also on Twitter and
TikTok.
TikTok. Yes, I was about to say
And
Facebook, but I don't think you're on Facebook. Maybe you are.
no,
Yeah.
no, not Facebook. Facebook is the only one I'm probably not on. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'm Tudorbeth in all of them. On Instagram, I'm Tudorbeth7. But if you just type in Tudorbeth, it'll come up with me. And they're so random. Like my TikTok is so random, the kind of stuff that's in there, because I'm also a postgraduate in medieval studies as well. So and one of my favorite things to do, in amongst writing books and deleting them, but is to go around all our like medieval churches
Hmm.
and cathedrals and things, and just looking at them. So there's quite a lot of really good videos on TikTok of these really ancient churches and things. So if you like churches, or if there's one that I went through visit the other week, and it's on TikTok. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but it's a Tudor memorial from Tudor times
Oh,
in this little
wow.
church. in the middle of nowhere. It's like, this is farming country, okay? We're surrounded by fields, and yet this church is like 700, 800, 900 years old. Um, and inside it is this, it's the biggest Tudor, original Tudor memorial and mausoleum I've ever seen of this lord that was there originally, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, so if you get a chance, check it out. I think it's 3 minute, because you can only have 3 minutes on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, but it's a 3 minute video, and it's just amazing looking at it. It's just unreal. It's crazy. It really is. In the middle of nowhere, Lincolnshire. This is the most amazing Tudor.
Oh, that sounds so awesome. That
Yeah.
I have not gotten to check it out. I will be honest, I've only been on TikTok a little bit this morning, and that was while I was looking at my coffee, and I haven't seen it yet, but I will definitely check it out. So everybody go check out Tudorbeth on TikTok. Excuse me as I almost choke myself. TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Go check her out there. You are also an instructor at the England's version of the School of Witchcraft or
British.
Wizardry, the British.
Yes.
Yes, and you guys are
Yes.
doing site renovations there right now, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We're updating it and everything. So hopefully, the new website will have include links to this podcast. It will have links to absolutely everything I do, all my articles and features that I write, and all the different websites that I write for, and all my books up there as well, and as well as the lessons and things. But if people wanted to learn, initially, there is a course that I put up there on One Light Consciousness on YouTube. That's what it's called,
Mm-hmm.
One Light Consciousness on YouTube. And the spells on there for each month. And there's like the a witchcraft course there as well. So if people are just dipping the foot into the craft, they're not too sure, check out One Light Consciousness, because all the videos and teachings are up there.
And that is definitely really awesome. I look forward to seeing the new site and all of the cool things that you guys put up there. And yeah, if you're looking for some witchcraft classes, that is a great place to check those out as well. Also, if you're just somebody who likes to learn on your own time, check out all of Tudorbeth's books, all of her TikToks, and everything in between. Tudorbeth, thank you so much for joining me again for this recording, and we look forward to having you back on the show as soon as your newest book comes out with Llewellyn,
Yes.
and we are excited for that. So everybody out there, take care, be safe, be good to each other, be good to the planet, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.